So hi, well, the Good Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with,
Mike from the Devil Wears Prada.
and we're asking some questions today about their upcoming album, Color Decay. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
It's been awesome. We've been on tour for 5 or 6 weeks. We've been playing these songs, or at least some of the singles, for months and months now. So the reaction's been awesome live, and I look forward to everyone hearing the songs.
Hell yeah.
So happy to hear that.
I don't mean to fanboy, but I did drive a very long distance to see you guys in Reading, Pennsylvania on this tour. Great show, and this album is fucking amazing. I've been listening to the stream for weeks now. I know all the words already.
Well, thank you. Where'd you drive from?
What?
Where'd you drive from?
I came from New Jersey, like all the way on the shore, and I just didn't want to go to New York.
Reading is something, though, eh?
Yeah, it's an interesting little town.
A little town there.
Yeah.
So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
It's always hard to come up with a record title after the record's done rather than having something you work with beforehand. And in the case of Color Decay, it was one that I came up with after the songs were done and the record was complete. But yeah, nothing conceptual by any means, but I thought it was a sort of interesting contrast to the sort of tarnishing that comes with age and comes with getting older, and things that used to seem glossy or bright seem to dull over time, which sort of just takes on some of the themes of certain songs throughout the album.
Mm-hmm.
And the cover art?
The cover art, really, no. We found Harry online, and he did the all the singles, and then when it came time to doing the record cover, he just put together a whole lot of different ideas he had, and we went from there.
Fair enough. All right.
Perfect.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
A lot of it kind of starts remote, but we recorded it ourselves out in the desert outside Joshua Tree. Drums were all done in studio. Some of the songs were also recorded in a rental home in Wisconsin, but yeah, I mean, I guess this is our first remote record where we really recorded everything ourselves, where John really took the reins as engineer. But otherwise, yeah, we know how each other work.
Fair enough. So is the plan to kind of keep it like where you guys kind of work on everything and record everything yourselves, or was it just unique because of the pandemic?
I mean, I don't think the pandemic dictated too much of the terms. More so it did on Z2, where, we wrote and recorded that when it was much heavier. But yeah, I think we were pretty free and open to be able to work outside of COVID by the time we were doing a lot of this. But really just, technology has really helped to be able to create remotely, and it's worked well for us. And John's really the master manipulator and the creative head to so much of what we do songwriting wise, that it's all born from his laptop, and from there, it's perfectly easy for him to send it to me if I'm working on the vocals or working off of his ideas or starting something fresh. So just a lot of transfer.
Fair enough.
Perfect. So what song off this album took the longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
My personal favorite is Trapped.
That's good.
The one that took longest to write, it might actually be Exhibition. What kicked off the record, I had an idea as to what I wanted the song to be, and I think lyrically it definitely took some patience and a lot of editing and critiquing to get it where it was to our standard. The instrumental definitely felt right, and definitely felt like a fun, energetic one to open the record. But I think honing in the lyrics on that one was probably one of the more challenging ones for me.
All right. So how'd the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer, shuffle around, see what fits? What was that process like?
John handled the track listing. I think when we had Exhibition, it was like, this would definitely be a fun way to kick it off. But then when John wrote Cancer and we came up with that song, that one was pretty definitive. Like, yeah, this is the perfect way to close the record. So um, I don't know. I think it's always pretty easy to know how to open an album as far as a song. That one's usually pretty fluid, but um, yeah, I guess the rest just kind of falls into place. Again, we've been doing this for a bit.
Yeah. Were the one-worded song titles intentional?
They were, yeah. Most just about any recording is going to start with some working title name, and it just kind of happened that when we started really compiling songs for Color Decay, all the songs with working titles actually summed up the songs quite well. So we just kind of stuck with that motif. It ended up being much more difficult than I would have predicted when we first started doing it. It turns out I really like using more than one word for songs, but
It shows in your older work.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, it kind of it almost did like a very natural sort of narrowing of the song's content down to a very specific theme too. So perhaps beneficial across the board.
Absolutely.
Hmm. So would you be able to tell us where Headspace is at while you were creating this record?
I think it depends. I mean, the first two songs we wrote were Sacrifice and Trapped, and those were a bit heavier in the pandemic. More of the other songs kind of evolved. I went through a bad breakup during COVID, and through that, there's obviously distance and separation that takes place, and some of those feelings kind of cool down, but at the same time, um, a song like 25 kind of just revs it all up. So I don't know. It was really awesome getting to do the record ourselves out in the desert. Kyle and I both had our motorcycles, which was really fun to be able to just cruise around out, California, Palm Springs, in the valley and everything. So it was really good. But at the same time, I need a certain level of discipline, and I can't. I'm quite easily distracted a lot of the time. So it's a practice to be able to keep me in the correct headspace to churn out songs and not get lazy and procrastinate.
Fair enough.
I get that.
So I want you to tell us your favorite lyric off this album and the meaning behind it.
I think one of the actually what I wanted to name the record, I was denied, but I wanted to name the record "Where Numb Meets Pain," which is which is a lyric from Time. But I thought in a sort of more prophetic standard, it almost kind of just seems like that's what existence is between numb and pain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel egotistical pumping my own tires like that, inflating myself. But yeah, I definitely want to do some merch at least with that on it. WN and
That'd be so sick.
I would buy at least one, maybe two.
That one kind of sticks out for me.
Hell yeah.
For sure, yeah. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should they play it in the car with friends, stuck with headphones on? Should they blast at a party, work out to it? What do you personally recommend?
It's a good question. I think it's so subjective to anyone's listening standards as to how they like to consume music. I find that I have like such a hard time listening to music on tour because I'm just all over the place and just with a set of headphones and my iPhone. But usually I'm very much a physical media consumer. I'm a pretty avid vinyl collector, and there's no listening experience like doing it in my home and in my dining room and maybe cooking a meal or working here on my laptop or something. So I don't know. I think it really depends on the person, but we're proud of the singles. I think the singles speak a lot to the variety of the record, but at the same time, we like full lengths, and we're not about to just release singles forever, but compile them into an LP. So hopefully, people have the attention span to get through it, especially because we feel like Cancer is a special song to conclude the record with.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You said that you're a vinyl collector. I don't know if other members in the band are as well, but the album is dropping with the vinyl. Was that on purpose as well, so that like people could have that physical?
Yeah, for sure. It's the sexiest thing in the world to talk about supply chain issues,
Absolutely.
but a lot of people really like to have their records when the record comes out. I'm a pre-order guy and I can wait because I know that's just like the nature of the game. But yeah, this definitely could have been streaming earlier if it wasn't a very calculated process to also have the pre-order vinyl shipping out to consumers. So yeah, just kind of the nature of the beast. But I'm certainly grateful that so many people are interested in the physical means of media and holding an LP in their hands.
Absolutely. Definitely a risky move because the shit changes by the second, you know?
True.
Yeah.
True. It when it hit like California a few weeks ago where order fulfillment takes place, I was like, wow, this was actually pretty smooth. We just had to be real patient for 6-7 months or something since we turned in the masters.
Wow.
Only 6 and 7 months.
Yeah.
So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words, no more, no less.
Prada keeps working, maybe.
That's good.
Ooh.
I don't know. We're certainly proud of these tunes, and it's nice having a lot of compliments from people that have heard the record and really like it. So there's been I always get real bitter and jaded and salty with bands kind of giving up or throwing in the towel and breaking up, and then they come back later right away and like get back in the scene. And it's like I always admired Every Time I Die and Thrice and bands that just really stuck it out through the highs and lows more so, and just so driven to their craft and driven to the ability and the great pleasure it is to be able to play tunes for a living. And I kind of take that the same to like band member changes. Like band member changes isn't always a bad thing. Like now we have people around Jeremy and I and collectively as a whole that all have worked their lives to be able to play music as a career and whatnot. And I think that's the most positive thing you could have as a band and as a band member. So yeah, I think we kind of just pride ourselves off of keep working. And I don't think this record is the act. I know it's not Transit Blues, and just trying to expand metalcore and work our hardest at making better songs than we ever have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love it. So is there a certain feeling or emotion you want this album to invoke in your listeners?
I've always written lyrics without much of maybe some records more so than others, but I've never really written based on other people's feelings. I've always tried to just dig into myself and go about my means of catharsis. But something that John has really instilled into the songwriting process, and specifically for him, who's writing a lot of the lyrics with me these days, is writing to create more relatable topics. So, that kind of sounds like I don't know, like being a kiss up or something. But I think it's honestly a fun challenge for me to kind of create a more fictional narrative and create situations that listeners can jump into even more so than I can personally jump into. So I think being able to apply your own story and your own experiences to the songs is the sort of, I know that's not exactly an emotion, but kind of what we're shooting for in a way.
Fair enough. And I think like in terms of emotion, at least this is kind of what I get when I was listening to the record, like the songs that are like super emotional and like heartfelt, you can feel like the pain kind of in your voice in a way.
I appreciate that. That's the goal. I mean, I know people knock my voice as far as sounding very different from when I started to how I sound now, but it's just been a means of getting more comfortable. And I always like to use the live setting almost as a crash test dummy as far as stretching and trying to find different boundaries of what I can do with my voice as someone that's not, a gifted singer by any stretch. So, I think it's also just John and me working too. And the fact that, it's just him and I together, or Jeremy will sit in, whoever is free to sit in, but John knows my voice and Jeremy's voice so well to where he can dictate and orchestrate exactly what the song needs, even if like Jeremy and I might not get it. He knows he can sort of conjure up something in us to just give it that little bit of extra inflection, where the vocal does of a screaming metal vocal doesn't sound like an instrument, it doesn't just sound like a patterned hit. So it's certainly a point of emphasis, and I'm glad you noticed.
Hell yeah. So what is your favorite memory that you made while creating this album?
That's a pretty good one. I mean, just across the board, being able to ride my motorcycle is really nice, and just be able to get out and spend an hour or two. I live in Wisconsin, so we have a pretty long winter, but we were able to get out and riding your motorcycle in November and December is something quite foreign to me, especially after living in Chicago a long time. So I think I'll always remember that, and I'll always remember the little ranch we rented in terms of just occupying it and cooking meals for the fellas and drinking beers. Shoot, I mean, so it was my birthday at one point. We went out and had our fair level of alcohol, so a lot of fun around those. But I think just the experience as a whole was definitely pretty special for us.
Hell yeah.
That's good. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour. You're at a gas station for a rest stop. You're going in. What is your snack of choice?
Cashews every day.
Unsalted, salted?
Lightly salted. I know you don't really get that much of an option, but yeah, same as airport. I'm probably only gonna do cashews. I refrain from sweets. I'm vegan. Cashews are the way to go. Good healthy fat, good bit of energy, good fiber. I'm a fan.
I would argue cashews are great even if there's nothing on them. Just straight out of the bag, they're great.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you. No complaints.
Oh yeah. No. So on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
Probably burritos. Chipotle is like the easy one that can satisfy everyone. So we eat a lot of Chipotle. But I mean, otherwise, I mean, the guys eat a lot of pizza. Every band eats a lot of pizza. I cut that out, obviously, with being vegan and not having an option of vegan cheese, at 2 a.m., which is in fact, a virtue. I should not be eating pizza at 2 a.m. So, but yeah, I think I'd stick with burritos. I think we eat that even more than like maybe Thai food. Definitely more than Thai food. Yeah, I think that'd be the number one.
What's the go-to Chipotle order then? Because personally, I get pretty sick of it after having it, once a week or whatever. So, do you have different orders, or are you going the same one every single time?
I usually go the same one with sofritas, pinto beans, white rice, pico, some veggies, guac, and lettuce is usually my go-to. But if I'm extra hungry, I'll get a double wrap and get some extra carbs in me. But yeah, I usually go with that. I can get down on a bowl if I'm eating it later because it's easier to microwave than a burrito, and the burrito probably all just soggied itself by that point. But yeah, after tour, I'm not eating Chipotle all the time at home. I promise that.
Good.
Perfect. So for these last couple of questions, we're going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you.
Certainly.
Awesome. So we're actually going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
It would be bratwursts. I love bratwursts. So like, I actually prefer tofurkey bratwurst even over the Beyond brats, but I actually had a Beyond brat like a half hour ago. So, but just some mustard, some sauerkraut on there. Either that or like some vegan kielbasa, but in Pittsburgh we say kielbasa, and like some pierogies is a big one for me. And I love beer. I drink a lot of pale ales. My favorite pale is called Daisy Cutter out of Chicago. So anytime I can get Daisy Cutter when I'm on the road, I'm all about it, and I'll stock up. But at home, I'm just cranking daisies, watching hockey.
Fair enough. All right. Perfect. So if you could live in one fiction world for a week, where would you live?
Oh, that's interesting. I'm a huge fan of fiction, but I'm not a fan of fantasy or sci-fi. Um, so really, I think most of the literature and the fictitious sort of content that I consume is in fact real world. Um, Shoot, I'm trying to think of really anything outside of here that I've like consumed at all. Because again, anything I get too sci-fi, I bounce out.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Maybe like,
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be sci-fi. It could just be like a movie that's set here, but like, you know, those characters don't exist, something like that.
yeah, I don't know. I think the closest I could get would be like maybe like Ray Bradbury, The Illustrated Man, or something like.
Hmm.
Although space is rather terrifying, but um, I don't know. I love traveling overseas. I love Scandinavia. I think any sort of story over there could probably be well suited for myself.
All right.
For sure. Love that. So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question. What is your favorite color?
Uh, Maybe blue or green.
Ooh.
Um, I don't wear color for the most part. Um, but if I do, it would probably be one of those. I suppose I'm a rather monochromatic individual, but I'm also a big sports fan. I'm from Pittsburgh, so black and gold everything. I'm down with that too. So,
Fair enough.
got to shout out the boys.
You know, when
yeah.
when people ask you what the album title means, you could just tell them it's because you don't wear color. There you
That'd be
go.
quick.
Yeah.
It'd be
Exactly.
quicker than these long ramblings.
Fair enough. So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
No, thanks for having me, guys. Check out Color Decay to everyone listening, and follow us online. I like to do all sorts of extraneous tasks and such, but yeah, we're proud of this album, and we hope the consumers dig it.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for now. That's been Mike from Devil Wears Prada, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.